Is the NHL thinking of pulling out of the Olympics? It's quite possible. We'll dive into that situation and tee up tonight's Leafs and Canes game. Toronto going for 3 in a row. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centered podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Thank you for making us your daily listen, and thank you for making the Locked On Network the #1 sports podcast network in North America. What's going on, Dave? How you feeling on a game day?
Man, sorry. I am going to power through this. I am going through. It's that yearly, just the everything just comes up. You got the mucus.
Oh yeah, no. I know. Everyone's dealing with that. Even the players, a lot of the players end up dealing with stuff, missing time with illness. Yeah. They technically didn't. Willie, he missed the practice last week with
he missed the game against Washington with an illness. And then when they asked him about it, I was like, nah, I'm not telling you. you don't need to.
Yeah. Know. Yeah. Who knows what exactly that meant, but we're going to power through it. It's going to be your flu game, Dave. I think you're going to have the best show you've ever had. Ever. I think it's possible. Dave's flu game coming up. Well, we got an interesting show. We're obviously going to dive into tonight's game, Leafs and Hurricanes. The big one for Toronto. It's a chance for them to really kind of put their stamp on things and be like, no, we're on the way back. A couple wins, we can make it 3 in a row, and it gets a quality opponent like Carolina on the road. That will be a big statement, signature win for the Maple Leafs if they can get it tonight. But before we get into all that, we got to get into this Olympic conversation here. So for those who haven't quite read up on the situation, Dave, do you want to discuss exactly where the NHL is at with the NHL, with the IIHF, the Olympics, the rink situation and all that? You want to just kind of lay it all out for those who aren't familiar?
Yeah, so we've been kind of hearing for the longest time that the NHL has shown concern over the fact that the rink in Milan is not close to being, like, it's not ready. And, there was supposed to be some testing done. And I think there's test events scheduled for December that were moved to January. So that was kind of the first And then we found out from Canada assistant coach Pete DeBoer that the rinks aren't actually going to be to NHL specifics. They somehow decided to make it about 4 feet shorter. So the width is actually like a little, it's like barely, it's like, it is the width of an NHL rink, just a little bit wider.
It's like 0.4 inches or 0.4 feet or something like that. It's less than half a foot of a difference in terms of width, but I think I read 3.17 feet shorter in terms of length. So it's not going to be a 200-foot hockey game, Dave. It's going to be 196.6 foot hockey game at the Olympics.
I can't wait for a coach. I can't wait for a coach or a player. They're going to want to say you got to play a 200-foot game. It's like, what, you're going to go outside of the boards and fight a fan or something? Absolutely.
We're going to run right through the boards. That's what it means to be a 200-foot player, willing to do whatever we want. That means running through the boards. That's what it takes. This is interesting. Very interesting because, obviously people might be sitting there saying, oh, what's an extra 3 feet? Like it's actually quite substantial. We're talking about an ice surface that's typically, when you're playing in these IIHF events, when you're playing in Europe, you're playing on larger ice surfaces, first of all. Mm-hmm. And they decided to play on an NHL ice surface. That was the agreement that was in place with the NHL, IIHF, and the IOC. And then all of a sudden, I guess the IIHF decided to sign off on the rink being constructed to be smaller. And does this matter? Yeah, it does, because the NHL game already as is, there's barely any space out there for guys to get going, right? For guys to be creative and find offense. You take away literal space, literal ice. I mean, it's going to be tight. It's going to be very, very tight. And we saw it at the Four Nations, how hard it was, how tight checking these games were. There was already so limited ice as is with the speed of the players in the game. And you take away quite literal, feet of the ice surface. It's going to be a lot smaller, and there's going to be less space out there for people to operate. I think there'll be a noticeable difference for the guys who are playing, and it might take a small adjustment once they get over there to figure out, how to go about it realistically.
Well, the big one too is figuring out your, how much room you have for chasing down pucks, right? And like, also let's not forget that it's no touch icing for the Olympics too, right? Mm-hmm. Or are they going back to hybrid? I can't remember now.
I can't recall, to be honest with you, but either way,
there are going to be some subtle differences with that. Also, goaltenders being able to play the puck, right?
Right, no trapezoid. That's right.
So it might benefit them a little bit more to have a shorter ice to maneuver a little bit. I mean, they're not going to shrink in terms of behind the net. They're not going to take it from there. It's going to be probably more the neutral zone. That's probably where you're going to see a lot of the change happening, because 3 feet when you divide it into the whole rink doesn't seem like a whole lot, but for these players, like, they need the room to operate. Like, we talk so much about how there's little, like the NHL ice, there isn't a lot of room to navigate. It doesn't get any easier when you're playing on a surface like the Olympics. And in past years, players have had to get used to the wider, like the bigger ice surface. And now it's going to be a whole new challenge to go through this. But they might not even go through this, because Bill Daly is like, well, if the rink's not going to be ready, we ain't going.
Well, that's the second little wrinkle. So, the rink is too small. The one that they're currently constructing is smaller than the NHL ice surface. And then the other additional thing is the rink isn't ready yet. Like, we're, 2 months away from the start of the Olympics, and this rink still is not built. It's still not ready to go for the Olympics, for these guys to go there. And Bill Daly came out today. I mean, obviously the report over the last 24 hours has been talking a lot about the surface being smaller, the rink being smaller, but Daly was asked, hey, this rink also isn't completed. If it's not done, we're not going. Like, that's what I thought was kind of a big bombshell there. It's not that they're going to play somewhere else, play somewhere, in a different rink, an ice surface. Maybe they play it in North America, perhaps, and, you just call it part of the Olympics. But no, they said, we're not going if this isn't completed as we were told it would be. So I think they're already pissed off the NHL, because the rink is not up to standard, not up to size of what it's supposed to be, 200 feet. And also, it may not even be done. And if it's not done, I mean, what are you going to do? Like, I don't think the NHL wants their players going to some rinky-dink, building in the middle of Italy somewhere, up in some mountain or something. Like, let's be honest, like, it is a beautiful country. I've been there. I think you've been there as well. It is a fantastic place to go. Not known for their hockey arenas, not known for hockey in general.
I know, because they have sporting arenas, like they got basketball there in Italy. Yeah. So you think that
their ranks. Don't get me wrong. I mean, like the Italian, they have pro Italian leagues. They're just not up to standard of what the Olympics want. What the NHL, you want to be able to pack these buildings with thousands of people. Right? Like, you need to have certain facilities at these rinks for the NHLers. That's part of the agreement. If this stuff all isn't ready to go, sounds like the league's willing to pull the plug on the Olympic Games, which is, that would be so terrible. I mean, we've been so excited. We've been talking about this for a year and a half, ever since we found out that the NHLers were going to go back to the Olympics. We sat there, watched the Four Nations, and we're like, this was awesome. This is like an appetizer. Can't wait for the Olympics next year with a gold medal on the line, playing for your country. Imagine what that's going to be like. and we might not get it because these morons out in Italy, no offense to your paisanos out there, yours and mine. I mean, I could have a cugino who's a part of this nonsense, not getting the rink done in time, and we're all gonna have to suffer for it. It's a little embarrassing. I'm gonna tell you, it's a little embarrassing for my Italian paisans out there that they couldn't get this done. We're supposed to be good at construction. We're supposed to be able to put this stuff up.
I mean, if you ask any Italian sports fans, if you look at the stadiums, especially the calcio stadiums in Italy, the biggest thing that always gets told is how old and worn down these stadiums are because they just do not put money into infrastructure for stadium. Like Milan and I'm going on a little bit of tangent, but Milan and AC Milan and Inter Milan are throwing in so much money to build the new stadium that they're both going to have to share. And it makes sense that they do it because that's the only way you're going to get the most use out of it. But they had to throw in so much money to get it done. Now, I know some people are saying, well, why should cities and countries put in the money? They eventually do use these for sporting events like the World Cup. You know, this hockey rink could potentially be used for other things down the road. And yeah, this I think is just more. But I think it's more on the IOC than on the city because the IOC
for sure.
The IOC should have been on this a lot sooner, and I think that's probably where the NHL is pissed off because talk about getting these players back to the Olympics, and we can't even get a rink done.
Yeah, like whether it's the IOC or the IIHF for not being on top of the IOC, like I don't know where the chain of command, I guess, is and who has the most blame, but I guess it'd be the Olympic Committee. Like at the end of the day, it probably should be them. Like they are the governing body of this tournament. They should have everything ready to go and in order, working order. I mean, they were so gung-ho to get NHLers back, yet didn't think it was imperative to get the parameters of the rink surface correct and also just flat out might not get it done entirely. It's really insane stuff when you think about it. I hope they can get it done. I really do. The ice surface, it is what it is. It'll be interesting to see how different it actually plays and looks to us if we can notice it for the naked eye. I think we will. Like I think there's going to be less space out there to operate because of this. I know it seems like a little bit 3 feet, but I mean that could make a little bit of a difference. We'll see. But yeah, it's really unfortunate that we're 2 months away. We're less than a month away from the team being announced. It's going to be announced like either December 31st or January 1st. Hockey Canada announced. The deadline is the 31st, and they might announce it on the 1st, I think I was reading. And who knows if we even have an answer by then. It's going to be very interesting. This thing's going to come right down to the wire, and something to obviously keep an eye on. Let's come back. I want to talk about a couple of guys on the Maple Leafs who might be there if the NHLers do go off to the Olympic Games. We'll chat about the Maple Leafs that might be attending the games, and obviously we got a game tonight against the Canes that we got a preview as well. So that's all coming up next on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, and every highlight moment. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. They've got live spreads, money line adjustments, player prop updates, and you can even bet for next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. That's FanDuel, the game that moves fast, and so can you. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, with brand new episodes, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can also subscribe to the podcast on YouTube as well. The Maple Leafs in action tonight against the Carolina Hurricanes, looking for their third straight win in a row. We've yet to see a 3-game winning streak from the Maple Leafs this season, so we'll see if they can get that done. But really quickly, to put a bow on the Olympic discussion, as of now, if you had to put money on it, little FanDuel wager, which Maple Leafs would you expect to see at the Olympics?
Well, I mean, I think we're pretty much locked on having the Americans being Matthews and Nyes, right? Like I'm curious.
Is Nyes a lock though?
I think Nyes should be a lock. I think I know that he got off to such a good start and there was a lot of momentum for him at that point, but I think he's really put himself in that conversation. And like you think about players that didn't make it in the Four Nations, like there might be a few that can sneak in, but I feel like since the Four Nations, he's really his stock has really gone up in that time. So I think he should be a lock, and maybe there's a bit of bias here, but I think he's shown that he's capable of playing in a tournament like this and being successful.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that he has an opportunity to make the team. I don't know if he's a lock, though. And according to FanDuel, his betting odds would suggest that he's not only a lock, but more likely to not be on the Olympic team. What do you think his FanDuel odds are to make Team USA right now?
Well, like plus 800?
No, not that far off.
Okay.
Definitely. He's not that much of a lock. Plus 310. Yeah.
Okay.
Plus 310, which would suggest that he is very much unlikely to make it. I mean, they got like Patrick Kane, Alex Tuch, Brock Nelson, Chris Kreider, Vinny Trocheck, Cole Caulfield, JT Miller. Those guys all above him in the betting odds to make Team USA. So I think he has an opportunity. Don't get me wrong; he's going to be in the mix, and we'll see what he can do in the final month. There's the good thing about being able to get that extra month of play that you didn't have for the Four Nations. They at least have until the end of the calendar year to make those decisions. But I think for sure Auston Matthews is going to be on the team, whether he's captain again or not. That will be a spicy meatball. Nyes, not as much a lock for me, but possibly. Nylander and Oliver Ekman-Larsson, I think, are locks for Team Sweden. OEL may not have been at the beginning of the year, but the way he's played, I mean, there's no shot. If he's healthy, he's going to be at the Olympics, assuming the NHLers actually go to the Olympics. Yeah. And then the other one that's like somewhat on the radar, I guess, would be John Tavares, right, for Team Canada. If they want to bring somebody who is a veteran and has been a good ambassador of the game for, the NHL, but also internationally with Hockey Canada. So maybe John Tavares could be a guy that could play his way onto it. He's done everything he possibly could. It's just depending on, the type of players and the type of lineup that Canada wants to ice, whether or not he's going to make it tomorrow. We'll see.
Tavares will have a tough time just because there's just so many players that Team Canada is probably considering. They have just a plethora of players, but there are also some players who from the Four Nations, I feel like might be more on the outside looking in, right? Who? I wonder if any of the Florida players, right? Sam Bennett.
Konechny might be a guy.
He might be another one.
The team. He's a lock. I think wasn't Reinhart one of the first 6 or something named?
Let's see.
I think Reinhardt's already locked in. I think he was.
I know Marchand. Oh yeah, you were right. So Point, Reinhart, McDavid, McCarr, McKinnon, and Crosby.
Yeah. So Reinhardt's a lock. Marchand will make it. Bennett's an interesting one too. I don't know. We'll see about Sam Bennett, but to me, I mean, Bedard, I think, and Celebrini will probably both make it. And I think the Olympic roster's 5 more players.
That's the other thing I was going to say. You get a little more flexibility in players you bring that didn't go last time. I'll bring up a player. Is Nick Suzuki in the mix for you?
I think so, yes. Yeah.
How about Anthony Cirelli?
If Anthony Cirelli played on any other team, I would say maybe not. But because he plays for John Cooper and he is going to be the head coach of Team Canada, I think Coop brings his guy.
Mm-hmm.
So by bringing both those guys and Celebrini and Bedard, you're already looking. It's like, well, that's very unlikely that we'll see Tavares also make the team on top of those guys. Is that where you're kind of heading?
Well, that's kind of where I'm going at. It's just like, okay,
yeah,
you got a lot of players there. Where does Tavares fit into that conversation?
Yeah.
Like, somebody asked me the other day if we think Mitch Marner's a lock.
Yes.
I think Mitch Marner will be asked. Like, I think John Cooper has always been a big supporter and fan of Mitch Marner. Like, he's
100% a lock to make this team. Like 100% a lock. So, he's minus 20,000 on FanDuel.
Yeah, actually, wow.
Oh yeah, like he's as lock as it comes. Bedard's minus 450, Celebrini's minus 700. So both those guys definitely cementing themselves in terms of the betting odds. Cirelli's minus 105, so he's kind of teetering on the line there of even money. Same with Zach Hyman. But you look for John Tavares plus 340. So Tavares and Nyes basically have the same odds based on the betting lines to make their respective teams. So we'll see. I think for sure we'll get three players definitely. I think Matthews, Nylander, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson will end up representing for sure at the Olympics. Nyes and Tavares, those guys just competing for those spots. I would give Nyes a bit more of an edge than Tavares, but that's based on competition. Much more fierce competition, I think, for the Canadian forwards than it is for the American forwards. And Nyes brings a little something different too. And he plays the style of hockey that Bill Guerin's looking for on America. So, yeah, I would give Nyes the edge a little bit more over John Tavares. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. Let's tee up tonight's game. Leafs, Hurricanes. Can the Maple Leafs make it 3 in a row? That's next on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by DripDrop. When I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, my energy, my mood, even my skin. That's why I've been using DripDrop. It's doctor-prescribed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like. DripDrop isn't your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. I like DripDrop as part of my daily routine. I mix up a packet before I go to work, and during that midday slump, brings me right back to life. It tastes great, but hydration has become a non-negotiable for me. DripDrop helps me feel sharper, calmer, and honestly just better overall. Right now, DripDrop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to DripDrop.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL. That's DripDrop.com, LOCKEDONNHL for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard and keep your body and mind performing at their best with DripDrop. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday on the Locked On Leafs podcast. Brand new episodes coming to you daily wherever you find your podcasts and also up on YouTube. So the Maple Leafs, big game tonight. They're in Carolina to finish up this road trip, and I'd say to this point it's been a successful road trip. I wasn't sure how this thing was gonna turn out after that Washington game, but then they went into Pittsburgh. They beat the crap out of the Penguins and Kyle Dubas, and then they go into Florida and they play a complete game, possibly their best game of the year against the Panthers. And now here's an opportunity to win 3 in a row, and this would be the biggest statement one of all. I mean, the Hurricanes, one of the better teams in the NHL, certainly one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. This is a big game and a game that could really put the Maple Leafs kind of back on the map as, playoff contenders in the East.
Well, yeah, you remember that game a month ago where you had a big lead. I think it was 3-0, and it all just evaporated, right?
They were up 4-2. 4-2, and then Carolina scored 3 unanswered.
So you remember what it's like to have a pretty decent start to the game and then see it all just go to crap pretty much, right? The Carolina is not a team you take lightly. We know that. The Carolina is also a team that you need to play a full 60 against. This is a team that has structure. They might not have superstar caliber players, but they have good players that play within a system that works very well with them. And like with Toronto, the big one too is, you look at what these last few games have meant to them. Just a renewed energy right now with this team, right? Yeah, it's only two straight wins, but it's 2 straight wins where you start to look a little bit more like the team that they were expected to look like, right? Yeah. And I think that's the important part. Like when they were going up against Carolina last time, they were not playing at their best. They were just trying to find a way to get wins, and they got burned for it because they did not play to their capabilities in that game.
Right. Like it's you look at this Maple Leafs team and you're starting to really figure out, okay, there's some things that are working, some things that they've got cooking now. That third line, like I want to see what they can do tonight against, a playoff team like the Carolina Hurricanes, right? So I think this is one where tonight you can learn a lot more about your team and where you're at than you did against Pittsburgh, who, quite frankly, I don't view as a playoff team, despite whether their record is. Yep. And the Florida Panthers, who are a shell of themselves right now without a couple of their studs in the lineup. We clearly saw that it's a completely different team, and they're just not as good, right? They're not as good. Right now, they can definitely put it together. It's the Florida Panthers, but right now it's not as good. This is a real team. Right. This is a real team that are at the top of the standings, top of the leaderboard, year in, year out. They play with good structure. And this is the type of team that you're going to have to beat come playoff time. So, I think this is a very important game. And they're going to be a well-rested, like, Dave, this team hasn't played since Sunday. So they've been off since Sunday. They had a 1-0 win over Calgary. Just one game in the last 5 days. And they've just been sitting there waiting for the Maple Leafs to get into town, and Leafs got to be ready. They got to be ready for a fight tonight.
They do. The Leafs have granted they've had this road trip. Someone say it's been a lengthy road trip. Well, it really hasn't. They haven't really done that much travel for it, so they should still be relatively fresh. They've had some time in between games to kind of get going here, and this is also the last game of the road trip, right? You do well on this game this final game of the road trip, you probably will get Friday off and you're back Saturday at home, right? You'll be kind of in a comfort zone. And so, I do think so. Also, sometimes when teams are off for a bit, they maybe are a little rusty, right?
Yeah. And we'll get to it in keys to the game, but I think the Maple Leafs need to get off to a good start, maybe take advantage of a team that might be a little lackadaisical as they haven't played in a couple of days. So that could also work out in Toronto's advantages. They're just rolling, right? They're playing every other night. They're in a groove. Maybe that works to their advantage, but they'll have to start off hot in order to take advantage of that. Let's take a look at the matchup breakdown here, Dave, between these two teams. And something that's really interesting, and I think it's becoming a trend league-wide, the power plays around the league just aren't operating at a very high pace right now. Even Carolina, who's one of the best teams in the NHL, operating at just a 13% power play, which is worse than Toronto's piss-poor 15% power play. It just seems like for whatever reason, there's not a whole lot going on when it comes to the man advantage all around the league. So that won't be an issue tonight, I guess, for the Leafs. Or let's hope that they don't make it an issue. But their penalty kill has been pretty good lately. They've killed, I think, 14 of the last 15 on the penalty kills. So they've done really, really well as of late. But look, the expected goals is kind of what I look at here, and that's where I know this team's going to be in a dogfight when it comes to the Maple Leafs and the Hurricanes. 56.1% of the goals in favor of Carolina, or the expected goals in favor of Carolina this season at 5-on-5, just 49% for the Maple Leafs. So that tells me that Carolina's winning a lot of their shifts. They're winning a lot of their minutes, which makes sense because they're a good team, one of the best teams in the league. And Toronto, they're going to have to play their absolute best tonight and play similarly to the way they did against Florida, and maybe even take it up a notch a little bit if they're going to want to get through Carolina here.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite simple what has been the bread and butter for Carolina all these years. You know, the Leafs, they were talking so much about the 5-man power play. I don't know if you heard about some of the things Craig Berube had to say about it. Essentially put the onus on the players to essentially get it to work, which I don't blame him. Like that's been a common theme with this team, is that the players have to be the one to kind of get it going here. And so I do think that against Carolina, Carolina's usually been one of the better penalty killing teams in the league. Like to see their special teams really struggle like they have, and yet their 5-on-5 numbers have been pretty good. That's like it's a little surprising, right? A little surprising in that regard. But it kind of just goes to show that if Carolina is going to give you opportunities, you have to make the most of them.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's take a look at the Leafs' projected lineup tonight. I don't believe we're expected to see anything different unless someone wakes up with a bad back or a sore neck or something. But we project to see the exact same lineup that we did in Florida. So that's Matthews centering Nyes and Domi, Tavares, Cowan, and Nylander is your second line. Joshua, Watt, and Bobby McMahon as a super line, apparently. They'll still be together. Well, hopefully they can come up with a third big game in a row. And then Lawton Lorentz and Nicky Bobby on the fourth line. Riley and OEL as your top pair defensemen. McCabe and Stetcher continuing to be that second pair for the Maple Leafs. And then Benoit and Myers. And I would expect Joseph Woll to get the start for the Buds tonight. What about the Carolina Hurricanes, Dave? What are the Hurricanes looking like tonight?
I mean, you got the usual suspects: Svechnikov, Spashaho, and Seth Jarvis. You got Nikolai Ehlers, who hasn't exactly been flourishing with Carolina since he's gotten there. So that'll be interesting to see how he does. You got Logan Stankoven, and yes, that is a former Leafs. Jason Blake's son. I'm now forgetting his first name.
Jackson Blake.
Jackson. I was gonna say Jackson. I didn't want to get that wrong. So thank you for having my back on that one. You got Will Carrier. You got Jordan Stahl and Jordan Martinook. That's usually a pretty good third line. You got Taylor Hall on the fourth line with Mark Jankowski and Robinson. And then
just crazy how Taylor Hall. I don't know if he's like. Is this a thing where Taylor Hall is a fourth line player now, or that this team is so deep that they're just like spreading scoring and he's just giving you offense from the fourth line? Like where's Taylor Hall at this point in his career? I don't know how many points he has here. Let me check that out. I don't know why it just stood out to me.
Yeah,
Taylor Hall's on.
I thought Taylor Hall had a pretty good game against the Leafs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
When they played against each other, he's just a player that. Obviously, people have to remember he's 34 now. Like he's not, in his late 20s. I guess 34 is not old, but it's
13 points in 25 games. So, like 40-ish point season. Yeah, I guess it's bottom six talent.
Yeah, I mean, he had a goal against Toronto in the last game. He hasn't played a lot of minutes either, which, I mean, if you're playing in the bottom six, that's granted, you're going to see that. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of interesting, especially when you've got like I guess it also speaks to the fact that they have, obviously more established players in the top six. The third line's a pure checking line with Carrier, Stahl, and Martinook. Like you're not, and like that third line has usually been pretty good. You're not messing with that to try to get Taylor Hall going, right? He's not really suited for that role either.
Yeah, I guess that makes some sense there. I'm curious to see who ends up getting the start tonight. I thought I heard Kochekov's healthy again and might be ready to go for this game. So it could be any of those three goalies, Kochekov, Anderson, or Brandon Bussey, who's played really well, which is par for the course for any goaltender that plays in front of Carolina, even ones that are, rink managers for the Marlies or something like the Zamboni drivers. I said rink managers, Zamboni drivers. Even in front of Zamboni drivers, those guys can put up numbers too, as long as you're playing in front of that structured group. Player to watch for the Carolina Hurricanes tonight. It's former Toronto Maple Leaf draft pick, Seth Jarvis, the one that got away. Could have been Seth Jarvis, could have been a Maple Leaf, but they had to get that extra year out of Patrick Marleau and then had to ship it off and give them the pick for them to take Seth Jarvis. He's been on fire, 5 goals his last 5 games. He's got 12 hits too over that course. So he's a guy who just continues to be a pain in the ass, plays really hard. He's someone too that probably ends up on Team Canada at the end of the day. So the Maple Leafs are going to have to keep their eyes on Seth Jarvis when he's out there on the ice.
Well, this is also a player that's, again, trying to make an impression for the Olympics too, right? So this is the crunch time for him, right, to leave that impression. So he's every time I hear the name Seth Jarvis, I just I shake my head because you just think of what could have been. I'll never forget that night when they when the pick was made. I'm just like, I really wanted Seth Jarvis on this Leafs team. Like, again, he's a solid player.
He's got 15 goals in 25 games this year. 15 goals in 25 games. That'd be number 1 on the Leafs.
He's really taken off. Like, when I think a lot of people were kind of waiting and hoping that eventually he was going to take that next stride as a player. I think he's really done that. So we'll see what he has in store for the Leafs tonight.
All right, locked on player to watch for the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. It's going to be Nick Waugh, former Carolina Hurricane. And last couple of games, you start to see the Nicola Waugh they thought they got when they traded over Mitch Marner to Vegas and said, at least we want Waugh back in for the sign and trade. He's finally turning into the kind of depth player, third line center that they thought they were getting, and hopefully he can continue to do that. They'll need a guy like him to step up tonight against a pretty talented Carolina Hurricanes team. But look at that faceoff percentage. It's actually a career high faceoff percentage. And keep in mind, in Florida, 80% of the faceoffs, he won 80% of his faceoffs. So that's a big thing, the Maple Leafs, for the possession game to try and win the draw and continue, and keep possession of the puck. That's big. And Nick Waugh has been able to do that. Hopefully he can continue tonight against his former team.
Yeah, I mean, he's really taken off ever since he's come back from the injury. And again, this is where the depth really can be a factor. When you go up against a team like Carolina, they test your depth. And I don't know who he'll be matched up with in this game, but now Toronto
probably the Aho line, I would think.
Maybe. But if you're the Leafs now, you gotta say, hey, you gotta watch out for our third line now. Like it's firing right now. And we've got 3 guys with size. It's led by Waugh, pretty reliable player. He's starting to play that style that we were expecting, right? When we heard about why he was kind of a target for the Leafs in that trade from Vegas, why the Leafs target him, other than maybe the contract. It was also he provides them that third line center that they've been looking for. And gotta like what we've seen from him, and hopefully it can continue.
All right, really quickly, keys to the game tonight for the Maple Leafs. Their keys to victory. I think they got to get off to a good start. We talked about how this Carolina team is very well rested, so maybe they'll come out a little lackadaisical at the Maple Leafs and get a good first punch in, maybe score early. They've scored on the first shot of the game in 3 straight games, which is a crazy kind of trend that they've got going here. but they can do it again tonight. 4 straight game, maybe go up 1-0 and try and take the lead. It's a lot easier for this team to, or it's not as easy for Carolina to play from behind. They want to play from ahead. So you get off to a good start and then continue that through with a 60-minute performance. That's going to be your best bet when it comes to beating the Carolina Hurricanes. I think also structure, Dave. How important is that going to be tonight against this team specifically?
Yeah, I mean, Carolina really, if you're not careful with the puck, if you're being careless with the puck, turnovers, they pounce, right?
Yep.
If you got to do those simple things, don't turn the puck over, don't make risky plays if they're not there. Forecheck. You have to forecheck this Carolina team. You have to get them playing in their own end because they love the possession game, right? That's their big thing. So, yeah, they've got guys that can produce offensively, that's for sure. But I do think that there is an opportunity here for the Leafs, considering how the last couple of games got, especially the Florida game. You saw how playing with speed and conviction can really help, right? Playing in the structure that Berube wants, it can be successful. We have to be willing to do it.
Yep, exactly. And then finally, got to play with good pace and got to play with some physicality, right? I think we showed that when you play with pace against quality teams like you did against Florida, that's definitely a better method for winning than kind of the slow boots we saw a little bit earlier in the season. Yep. So I think that's going to be important. And obviously physicality, it's a good team out there. And when Rod the Bod's your head coach, you got a lot of guys in the weight room over there in Carolina. So you're going to have to lean on them a little bit because they're going to lean on you back. So match that physicality. That's going to be important. Guys like Joshua, guys like Nicolas Waugh, I'm looking at those guys. Max Domi, I want to see up his physicality. He's also a former Hurricane, so a little revenge narrative maybe for Max Domi possibly tonight as well. All right, that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at _Morassutti and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. We'll be breaking down Leafs and Canes. Can they make it 3 straight wins tonight? We'll see. Go Leafs, go. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.